What could possibly make Prince Harry, the man who has kept his cool through decades of public scrutiny, snap and take the shocking step of kicking Meghan Markle out of Montecito? And why, in a move that stunned even the closest insiders, did he demand the return of their wedding ring? The images we've seen in glossy magazines, the smiling couple at red carpets, the perfect Instagram posts, they told one story. But behind the cameras, everything was unraveling. And tonight, you're going to see exactly why this fairy tale romance has hit its breaking point. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It all started quietly. To the outside world, Harry and Meghan's life in Montecito looked idyllic. Ocean views, sprawling estates, quiet streets lined with palm trees. But those who know the couple, those who watch the small cracks forming behind closed doors, say something darker was brewing. Friends whispered about tension, about arguments that weren't meant for public eyes. And while most people would shrug off a disagreement between a husband and wife, what happened here was far from ordinary. Harry didn't just raise his voice, he took action that no one saw coming. Timing is everything in drama, and this moment came when the world least expected it. The couple's public appearances were still carefully curated, yet rumors were leaking. Social media posts deleted mid-week, cryptic quotes in interviews, subtle cracks in their polished image. For Harry, these weren't just personal annoyances. They were betrayals, small at first, but piling up like a storm cloud ready to explode. Imagine keeping calm through months of tension, only to have one final straw ignite a fire that can't be controlled. That's exactly what happened. And then there's the wedding ring. A symbol of love, commitment, and trust suddenly turned into a tool of confrontation. Why would someone demand it back? What did this act say about the state of their relationship? Some insiders hint at anger, some at disappointment, but the truth is far more complicated and far more explosive than anyone expected. You might be asking yourself, is this another tabloid exaggeration? Believe me, it's not. Every detail we're about to share comes from sources who were close to the couple, people who have watched the situation spiral for months. And while the public may see drama as entertainment, for those living it, every decision carried enormous emotional weight. Friends and family were involved, alliances were shifting, and trust, once the foundation of their marriage, was breaking down. By the end of this story, you won't just be shocked by what happened. You'll question everything you thought you knew about Harry and Meghan. The perfect couple? Far from it. Behind closed doors, it was a different reality entirely. Tension, fury, heartbreak, betrayal. They all collided in one explosive moment that changed everything in Montecito forever. And the first act of this drama, the moment that set everything in motion, started with one argument. One argument that seemed small, until it wasn't. It all started with a simple disagreement. But simple is the last word anyone would use to describe what came next. Have you ever seen a couple who looks perfect on the outside, yet you can almost feel the tension simmering beneath every smile, every handshake? That was Harry and Meghan in Montecito. To the neighbors, the cameras, and the world, it seemed like another quiet morning. Coffee on the balcony, the ocean glinting in the distance, birds chirping. Peaceful, normal. But inside the walls of their estate, the air was thick with frustration. According to insiders, Harry had been unusually quiet that week, pacing, checking his phone, staring off into the ocean with a look that terrified even those closest to him. Meghan, meanwhile, was tense, snapping at small things, a misaligned rug, a misplaced note, even the way Harry brewed his morning tea. You could almost hear the storm building, like a kettle about to whistle. And for anyone who knows how these small tensions escalate, you already know, once the lid blows, there's no stopping the chaos. Friends close to the couple say this argument began over something trivial. A missed call? A scheduling conflict? We may never know the exact trigger, but the emotions were anything but trivial. Harry, who has often tried to remain the calm anchor, was on edge. Meghan, who has faced her own battles in the public eye, was defensive. The clash of pride and stubbornness ignited a chain reaction. It's fascinating and terrifying how the smallest spark can light a wildfire. Have you ever experienced that? That moment where a minor disagreement suddenly feels like the world is collapsing around you? That's exactly what happened here. Even the staff noticed it. Usually quiet, Almost invisible, they could feel the tension. Footsteps were sharper, doors slammed, and yet, the couple still put on a public front. Calls were answered with polite smiles. Cameras caught images of normalcy. But insiders reveal that behind the scenes, every word was a minefield, every glance a warning. The calm had only one purpose: to mask the storm about to hit. And then came the first sign of something bigger. A message, a text, something that seemed ordinary but carried a weight that no one expected. One single line that changed the trajectory of their day, their week, maybe even their marriage. By the time the sun set over Montecito, the quiet morning had exploded into a private war no outsider would have predicted. What happens when patience runs out and the tension finally explodes? That was Montecito, that week, that day. Have you ever watched someone you thought would never lose control completely snap? That's exactly what happened with Harry. One moment, he was quiet, brooding, calculating. The next, he was furious, and Meghan, caught off guard, had no idea what was coming. Insiders reveal that the confrontation began with words that seemed harmless at first, but every word carried years of frustration, unspoken grievances, and simmering resentment. Harry's tone was sharp, unrelenting. Meghan, equally stubborn, fired back. The clash wasn't just about a schedule, a phone call, or a minor misunderstanding. It was about trust, respect, and boundaries, things that had been eroding slowly, silently, behind closed doors. Imagine living in a bubble of luxury, beauty, and public admiration, and still feeling cornered, unheard, unseen. That's the irony of Harry and Meghan's life in Montecito. To the world, they were free, independent, untouchable. But behind the gates, every misstep, every disagreement, every past grievance came roaring back. Emotions spiraled. Voices rose. Insults, or what insiders describe as carefully measured barbs, were exchanged. The calm, the controlled front that Harry had maintained for months shattered completely. Then came the action that stunned everyone who knew them. Meghan, upset and shocked, was asked to leave the estate. Think about that for a moment. This wasn't a disagreement resolved with a conversation. This was a literal eviction from the home they shared. The tension didn't just reach its peak. It exploded in a way that left friends, staff, and even family members speechless. The logistics alone, packing, arrangements, privacy concerns, would have been stressful for anyone. But in this case, it carried an emotional weight that was almost unbearable. And then there was the wedding ring. The symbol of love, commitment, and shared history suddenly became the ultimate weapon in the confrontation. Harry demanded it back. Some insiders hint at anger over betrayal. Others say it was about control or a desperate attempt to regain order in chaos. Whatever the reason, the act was shocking, dramatic, and deeply personal. To the world, it might look like a headline. To them, it was a turning point, a statement, a rupture in the very foundation of their relationship. Can you imagine that moment? The silent tension, the sudden demand, the disbelief, the heartbreak? Have you ever had a relationship reach a point where an object, something you once cherished, becomes a symbol of everything gone wrong? That's exactly what happened here. But the fallout was only beginning. What happened after the ring was returned, and how the couple, the staff, and the media reacted, would shock even those who had been following every moment closely. And the story was far from over. Once the ring was returned, nothing would ever be the same. Have you ever seen a private argument turn into a public spectacle almost instantly? That's what happened in Montecito. Word spread fast. Through staff whispers, social media murmurs, and discreet leaks to journalists. Suddenly, the tension that had been contained behind closed doors exploded into a whirlwind of speculation, gossip, and outrage. Everyone wanted to know what led Harry to demand the ring back, and how had Meghan reacted. Friends and insiders describe a mix of shock, disbelief, and heartbreak. Meghan was stunned, visibly shaken, according to those close to the couple. Harry, usually controlled and composed, was still simmering, his fury barely contained. The contrast was striking. A man who had been patient for months now acting decisively, and a woman grappling with the sudden upheaval of a life she thought was secure. It's a dramatic reminder that no amount of wealth, fame, or preparation can shield anyone from emotional chaos. Meanwhile, the staff at the estate were caught in an impossible position. Loyal, professional, and discreet. They witnessed the tension firsthand. Doors were closed, arguments were hushed, and every gesture became a signal. The calm had vanished. Even neighbors reported unusual activity, unusual comings and goings, and an energy that suggested something far more serious than a minor disagreement. Montecito, for all its luxury, became a stage for one of the most dramatic private crises in recent royal history. And the media? They pounced. Headlines appeared within hours, fueled by leaks, rumors, and the public's insatiable curiosity. Social media erupted. Some criticized Harry, some Meghan, some both. But beyond the judgment, there was fascination, a collective desire to understand what could push a marriage to this point. How do you reconcile love, loyalty, and fury in one space? How do you process heartbreak and anger in real time, with millions watching? That's the storm Harry and Meghan found themselves navigating. Even closer circles, friends, family, advisors, were scrambling to react. Some tried to mediate, others took sides. Every conversation, every private meeting, became a chess move in an emotional game where trust was fragile and stakes were high. Insiders hint at tense phone calls, secret meetings, and alliances quietly shifting behind the scenes. The dynamics were changing, not just between Harry and Meghan, but in the relationships that surrounded them, shaping the fallout in ways no one could have predicted. And yet, despite all the chaos, the story wasn't finished. Hidden messages, confidential discussions, and unspoken tensions hinted that this was only the beginning. The world may have seen a dramatic confrontation, but the private repercussions, the emotional scars, the legal questions, and the long-term impact on their relationship were far from resolved. But what no one expected was what came next, a revelation that would shock even the most loyal fans and make them question everything they thought they knew about Harry, Meghan, and the fragile line between love and fury. The story of Montecito, the confrontation, and the wedding ring isn't just about a private argument. It's about trust broken, emotions running wild, and the pressure of living under a microscope. Think about it. A marriage that looked perfect, lives that seemed untouchable, suddenly exposed for what it really was: fragile, human, and deeply complicated. The images of smiling, glamorous appearances now feel like a mask, hiding months of tension, frustration, and heartbreak that no one outside could have imagined. For Harry, this moment was a tipping point. A mix of fury, disappointment, and a need to reclaim control over a situation that had spiraled beyond his influence. For Meghan, it was a shock, a moment that forced her to confront the fragility of what she had built. And for everyone watching, from friends and family to millions on social media, it was a revelation that even the most public, scrutinized, and seemingly perfect couples have struggles that no one sees until the walls come down. This is the power of drama behind closed doors. It's emotional, it's raw, and it's a reminder that relationships, no matter how glamorous, carry stakes that can erupt at any moment. The confrontation, the eviction, and the wedding ring demand were all signs of a larger story. A story of tension, loyalty, and human emotion colliding in ways that are impossible to ignore. So, what can we take from this? Sometimes, appearances deceive. Sometimes, the cracks we ignore will suddenly become chasms. And sometimes, even love in the spotlight is vulnerable to moments of chaos that can change everything in an instant. If you were shocked by Harry's decision and Meghan's reaction, imagine what comes next. And while the public will speculate, only time will reveal how, or if, their relationship can survive this storm. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Harry right to act as he did? Was Meghan's response justified? Comment below, and make sure you subscribe. Because this story isn't over, and the next chapter may be even more explosive.